Good evening, everyone. This is the meeting of the Rowley Board of Selectmen for February 11th, 2019. The meeting is being audio and video recorded. Will you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our first order of business is an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Massachusetts Coalition of Police, MCOP, Local 360, pursuant to state open meeting law, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town, and to return to open session. So we will return to open session. Will someone make a motion to go into executive session?
I give you that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to go into executive session has been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
I, Robert Snow.
Aye, Cliff Pierce.
Hi, Joe Perry.
Hi, Dave Peters.
Okay, we're in executive session. Okay, good evening, everyone. We will have public comment until 7:30. The first order of business is a letter from the Board of Water Commissioners regarding the water superintendent vacant position. I'll read the letter. To the Town of Rowley Board of Selectmen. The Rowley Water Department has now been without a water superintendent for over a year. The employees of the Water Department have variously assumed many of the pressing duties of a water superintendent and have done everything they can to ensure the continued supply of safe drinking water. They have displayed a remarkable level of dedication and professionalism. The Commissioners have also pitched in to make essential decisions that are effective and timely. This is not, however, a desirable, sustainable, or acceptable situation. The workload is substantially greater than should be expected from the Commissioners. This spring, when the DEP conducts its audit of the Rowley Water Department, i.e. the sanitary survey, the continued absence of a water superintendent will constitute a deficiency, and the state DEP will force the town immediately to address such a deficiency. We would greatly prefer to be in full control of our own destiny and to be able to select a superintendent who will work smoothly and effectively with existing water department employees and other town departments. The dangers of a bad hire under duress or in haste are too great. The Water Board asks for leave to do what is necessary, especially in terms of pay and benefits, to hire a qualified candidate for this essential and mandated position. This matter is now urgent, and we would appreciate a quick decision. So Bernie, I don't know if you want to, I'm sure you know we have our next agenda item is to discuss a revised personal plan and propose increases to the non-union compensation schedule. So I don't know if you want to comment on your letter further, or...
I just want to make one very brief comment now that you read it out, and I reread it. The workload is not only high for the commissioners, it's very high for the professional employees, the workers of the department as well. So it's not just a complaint about the commissioners. Those guys are doing an outstanding job, and they're working. They're filling in for
that's
that
commendable.
So
Right.
then I'll pause and wait for the second item, which I think is.
But essentially, what you're saying, I think, is that the pay and benefits that we would offer a new person have proven to be inadequate to obtain a qualified applicant. Is that correct?
That's correct. That we have had, from my understanding, no fully qualified candidates for the superintendent's position, and people who may be qualified from within the department would be taking pay cuts to fill the position.
Okay. All right, so our next agenda item is the updated personnel plan and FY20 compensation schedule. And the Selectmen received a memorandum from Deborah Egan, the town administrator. Attached, please find a copy of the updated Town of Rowley personnel plan. The Personnel Advisory Committee, PAC, Assistant Town Administrator Amy Lyden and I have been revising this document for the past few years, and it is now complete. Our undertaking of the project resulted in our deleting obsolete sections, updating other sections, and inserting new sections and policies. We were able to use Maya grant funds to have attorney Deborah Ecker of KP Law write some of the new policies. The PAC also revised the FY20 non-union compensation schedule because the non-union schedule was no longer reflecting the current market pay rates and does not meet the current state minimum wage of $12 per hour. We used Human Resource Services, Inc. to conduct a survey of a cross-section of non-union positions and found that overall the non-union compensation schedule has fallen significantly behind the current market pay rates. The reason we believe that it has fallen so far behind the current rates is due to the following. One, for the implementation of the first schedule in 2013, we added 2 lower steps below the recommended step 1 and didn't bring the rates up to competitive rates at that time. And the second one is that the annual 1% cost of living increase that has been applied to the schedule since 2013 have not sufficiently kept the rates up to market conditions. In an effort to recruit qualified applicants, we must have competitive pay rates and benefit packages. It is important to note that compensation schedule approved by the PAC doesn't fully implement the survey results, but it brings us closer to the market rates. It also does not address the next state minimum wage increase of $13 in January 2020, which is halfway through fiscal year 20. As part of the implementation of the proposed FY20 compensation schedule, the PAC had to realign some of the positions into new grades in the compensation schedule. These adjustments are reflected in the personnel plan. And we also have a letter dated February 3, 2019 from the firm that did the survey of rates in the area, that is Human Resources Service, Inc., which did a survey, market rate survey of 13 towns in the area. I just want to read one paragraph. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'd just like to read one paragraph of that memorandum, which is again from the Human Resources Services Act. Overall, the data showed that Rowley's salary schedule has fallen behind the market, which is not unusual when so many years pass without an appropriate update to the plan as the economy changes significantly over time. The average of the data shows that the ranges are low at the minimum by 13% and at the maximum by 17%. That translates into approximately 2 to 2.5% every year COLAs for the last 8 years. However, the town of Rowley has only been adding a 1% COLA each year to their compensation structure. Therefore, the town has not been able to keep up with the rapid increase in the cost of living. The proposed compensation plan is based on fiscal year 2019 market data projected to fiscal year 2020. The consultants found that the town's entry levels for the structure were too low to realistically be able to recruit talent. Always hiring beyond the midpoint is not a good practice. Okay, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm the chairman of the Personnel Advisory Committee, and I just want the board to understand that the advisory committee, which basically consists of Larry White from the Finance Committee, this is by the town bylaw, a member of the Board of Selectmen, which is myself, and Mo Lavasa, who's a citizen who's not a town employee. We have worked diligently for a good 3 years with our town administrator, Deborah Egan, and Amy, the assistant town administrator. The two of them have done an unbelievable job in putting together the employee updating and putting together, rewriting completely, really, the employee manual. In conjunction with that, the last 2 years or so, or maybe longer, we've recognized that the pay scales in this town are extremely low. They're not keeping up with, we've been giving out a 1% cost of living raise on top of a 1.25% between steps, so it really hasn't kept up to inflation, and it's not as much as what other towns and cities around are doing. And a lot of that was based on budget constraints. We really had issues with budgets, and the school was really hitting us heavy and having us come up with extra money for the school budgets. So we had grant money. Town administrator had some grant money and some other monies that we hired HRS to do a survey for us. Now, just as give an example of what the survey they did was of the following communities: Oxford, Essex, Georgetown, Groveland, Hamilton, Manchester by the Sea, Merrimack, Middleton, Newbury, Rockport, Topsfield, Wenham, West Newbury. All relatively small towns that are more or less within our category. Obviously, no two towns are the same. And what they did was they compared, they took like 19 positions of upper management within the town of Raleigh, and they compared the pay we give our people versus what the average was for the other towns. And we found, other than a couple of positions, I mean, in some cases we were 42% below, 21% below, 27%, 31%, minus 1%, minus 12, minus 28, minus 55. We're kind of all over, depending on the position. There were a variety of differences, but the glaring issue was that we were well below surrounding communities in our pay structure for upper management people, non-union upper management people. So what Debbie and Amy did a huge amount of work. We knew what the goal was when we first got this survey was, well, if we can get our employees up to the middle, from the high and lows, the mid-range of what all the other communities. We don't want to be high, we don't want to be low, we wanted to put our employees in the middle. We couldn't afford it. It was still going to be too much money to do it all in one lump. So Debbie and Amy worked out a compromise and reworked the schedules to come up with the schedule that you've been given here tonight. We're not going to go into individual positions because this is the first time that people are realizing that we're doing this. We're looking for a vote of support from the Board of Selectmen. Obviously, the Personnel Advisory Committee is only an advisory committee. All the personnel actions are the purview of this particular board. So we'd be asking you to approve the work that's been done to update the personnel plan, the new 2020 pay schedule, and the classification schedule, which consists of 17 classifications of employees. Total cost is basically we're looking at, I don't know, Debbie, what did you say it was going to be? 100 and
it would be somewhere over $100,000.
Be over $100,000 to do this. So this doesn't include the union positions. The money is going to come from the fact that the last town meeting, the town voted to adopt upgrade the sales tax on meals tax. I'm sorry, not the meals tax, from 6.25% to 7%, which every other town does. We were about the only one around that didn't do that. That's generating income from what we've seen so far from the state reimbursement to us on a monthly basis, somewhere between $120,000 and $150,000 total for the year. So this is our chance this year to come forward and upgrade our employees, not to where they really should be, but at least we're making a big step towards what we need to reward them for the work they do. If we've been very fortunate that nobody's left their positions. However, if somebody does leave, then we're going to get stuck with, we're going to have to pay people more to come and work here in these professional positions. And when you do that, you're generally stealing people from other towns. And if we're not competitive, as the water board found out, that if we're not competitive, we're not going to get these people. So we can afford it. It's a big nut, but this is the year when it appears as though the school budget is probably affordable within what we've allocated, and some free cash that should be available. This is money that's came in as a result of the increase in the sales tax, so it's increased revenues. It's not going to add to the tax rate per se to do this, and it's rewarding our employees who deserve to be paid equally to what other towns are paying their employees. And like I say, it doesn't do it 100%, but certainly goes a long way towards reducing that inequity. And in future years, our intent is, assuming we're all here, to keep this thing going. In other words, the last time when we did this, was it 8 years ago, Debbie? We sat here and went through the same situation, and budget crunch was such that we had to purposely keep the raises very small. Well, you know, we did it so long that it was great for us because, as Bob always says, we're very frugal. We've been frugal, but the employees have paid the price, and it's but at this point we're trying to.
Well, we had to be frugal. Too.
Yeah, we had to be.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't something that we were trying to be cheapskates, but you know, we deal with, like telling the school, we deal with what monies we have available. We don't manufacture money out of the blue. So I'm asking you if you got questions. I'm more than happy to answer them, or I'm sure Debbie can answer them.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Wait a minute. Can you wait, please?
Can you wait, please?
All right.
I'd like to comment. I did take home my light reading over the weekend, and I did read through all of it. I didn't read every word in it, but I did read through all of the page work, all of the rates, all of the changes, and I think it's an incredible work, and I want to commend you for commend the committee for doing that. That was an incredible job, and it's well done. Very well done, and I think we're at a point now where we can support this, and I think we should.
Yeah, and the credit goes to Debbie and Amy, not the committee. We just came every week at our meetings or periodically, and we critiqued what they did.
They did an outstanding job.
So they really did a fabulous job, and it's taken a couple of years. I mean, it certainly has, and the help of an outside consultant. But they were doing this, and here's a good example of what the size of the document is. They were doing that while running everything else in town too, so they certainly deserve double credit and a real hefty thank you for all the work they put in and the success. It's a great document that's going to be kept updated as we go along and changes are made. It's easily fixable and updatable, and that was all done. I mean, up until now, the Personnel Department Advisory Committee really hasn't played the kind of a function it's done now, and it's a real credit to Debbie and Amy for the work they've done. So,
You know, we need to attract people to our town.
Right.
You know, to employees, and you know, you can see it in the water department. You know, we've had a problem with our fire station. We have upgraded that. We've had, you know, we have a new library, 20 years old, but it's new.
yeah, relatively speaking.
There's things you must address, and compensation is one of them if we're going to attract good people to the town and keep good people. I mean, the most valuable, I think, about, you know, as Bob Mary always said, was your people, and you want to hold those good people.
That's right.
And again, you've done an outstanding job, Deb and Amy, you know, putting this together. So thank you.
And just keep in mind that this is for non-union management positions, or non-union positions.
Right.
And also, we did not include elected positions, because the Personnel Advisory Committee has, under the bylaw, we have no control over setting compensation rates for elected positions. So in their budgets, the elected, you know, Sue Hazen, Karen Summit, et cetera, all those people who get salaries, highway surveyor, if they're beyond what the normal raise would be, if they're looking for more, then they need to propose that and fight for it on town meeting floor. So they're not in our purview, so they're not included here, and they should be aware that they're not included. Also, there's some employees with contracts. Mm-hmm. Contracts obviously supersede with the agreements we've made with people, such as the police chief, for example, or fire chief. So those little things are still left to be negotiated, and obviously we're starting to negotiate union contracts for the next 3 years, so that's going to be an issue. But I think it's time that we do this, and I fully support it, and I'll go to the Finance Committee and support it before the Finance Committee and give them a heads up of what we're trying to do, and I expect on town meeting floor, if we get calls or, you know, issues or something, I'm more than happy to fight for it, because it's long overdue, and the employees deserve to be properly treated. And it's every department, and there's everything from the library to the various conservation agents and health agents and staff in this office and staff in the treasurer's office and so on and so forth. So I mean, it encompasses, there's no particular department. It basically runs the gamut from almost every department in town. So it's a wide-ranging document, and we did it this way. Some people are going to get a little bit more money, a little bit less, depending on where they fit in that schedule. But it's the best we could do to give it to be try and fair to try and be fair to every management employee, and yet still be able to afford, have the town be able to afford to pay the bill for this. So,
Well, two things we want to do is we want to retain good people and attract good people.
right.
And this is a way to do it. I mean, the same thing was we went to and looked at our pool hall fire station and realized we had to do something. And this is something we have to do.
Right.
Well, I think the basic problem is we've been trying to get away with 1% COLAs for
Yeah.
8 years. And is there any surprise that eventually you would fall behind in what the surrounding
Yeah.
towns are paying? I mean, I don't think there's any surprise in
No,
that
there's no
whatsoever.
surprise in that.
And I want, I think we all agree, we have very good employees in this town. We have a very good workforce, including this office, the Board of Health, the Conservation Agent, the Town Planner. I mean, you can go down the
Library.
list.
And
Library.
it's very
But
difficult.
if those people were to leave, we'd have a very difficult time attracting new qualified applicants, just like the Water Department is experiencing now with regard to the superintendent, so I think.
And as we know, we sit here at the table, we do the budgets. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act here.
Yeah, it really is.
And Mr. Chairman, one of the most crucial pieces of this is the state minimum wage more or less requires a recalibration of the system. And while those are the lower paid positions, that now throws everything askew.
Sure.
And the market conditions now to hire into those positions when you can go to a business, retail establishment, a restaurant, and you're gonna, Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's, and start now at 12, and then next January you're already at 13. I don't think people realize the consequence on how that has to be recalibrated through the system. It makes it very difficult. Positions that we have that are at that lower end of the pay scale. It has really shifted the whole schedule. We're seeing it, we're reading articles about substitute teachers and things like that. Other municipalities are going through the same thing.
And we're paying, I believe the library pages, for instance, the summer help that we hire for the cemetery and the highway department, without a change, we're paying them less than what the minimum wage is out in the community. So if someone can work for McDonald's and make an extra $1 or $2 an hour rather than work at the library, for instance, or cut grass all summer in the heat, they're probably going to do that. So it also affects those employees and our ability to hire them. So as the Commonwealth moves ahead with its minimum wage, we need to keep up as best we can with our scales.
And like everybody is, talk to people in the private sector, it's very difficult to get people.
Yeah.
Even,
Full employment.
Yeah.
yeah.
Bernie?
Yeah, I'd like to add.
Just a minute,
I'll get you, I'll ask,
what are you doing to me?
sorry, I forgot
All right.
you had interjected before.
Yes, you have a new source of funds with the hotel, motel, room tax. That can be earmarked. Now, I'm estimating first year revenue, this is just a wild guess, $42,000. That would be occupancy, 200 days occupancy at a daily rate of $125. And then it should increase within a couple of years. The occupancy rate should be up to maybe 2/3 occupancy rate, possibly with an average daily rate of 195, which is still way below Greater Boston motels and hotels. So maybe 42,000 the first year, and you're looking at over 100,000 once the place gets up and running. Hotel, motel, room tax can be earmarked by you.
Thank you.
Bernie?
Yeah, I'd like to add my plaudits to Amy and Deborah in terms of putting together the personnel plan. I spent 35 years in the HR field, and I understand fully how complicated and detailed this kind of endeavor, and the amount of effort it takes to pull this together. In terms of the water department's specific position, I can only speak at this point as one commissioner. This is all brand new. This is like new news, and we haven't had a chance to look at it. In the letter I sent, that we sent to the board, the Board of Selectmen, one of the key things was flexibility. And one of the things that hasn't been raised here is the notion that we actually now do have flexibility. That we can look at the full range of, for a particular grade level, full range of available salaries, rather than having to try to bring somebody in at the new hire or the first 6-month pay grade, which was one of the big problems that we had. That was just to the point of being ludicrous. So making that change is, I think, is very important and a huge step in the right direction. I think the uplift in the whole pace schedule is necessary. I think it is. It's a double-edged sword, though, because I'm having spent a lot of time working with on the Triton budget, or at least examining the Triton budget. We want to be careful not to give license to the fact that that's going to okay across the board increases of anything like the magnitude that we are just contemplating, you guys are contemplating now. I think that Proposition 2.5 is a massive benefit for the taxpayers. It forces kind of careful consideration of all these increases. I can see how over time the schedule can kind of fall out of whack, but I would point to the fact that Pentucket has managed their payroll, their pay schedules, in a way that has adhered to the Proposition 2.5, in a large measure just the way ours has as well. That doesn't mean to say it doesn't fall out of sync with the rest of the market, but I would hate to think that you guys are suddenly going to not to pay attention to that fierce constraint on year-to-year budgets. I think we can take advantage of the additional revenue flow and, in a certain sense, earmark it to kind of change and ratchet up the pay scales for all our employees, and give us a better chance to compete in the marketplace for these positions. That's my position as one of the commissioners, and I feel capable of really speaking to my view at this point rather than speaking for the board.
Well, I think one of the things, Bernie, we as a committee and with Debbie, is that we made a very real effort to understand that we need to increase pay rates, but at the same time we have to have the revenue. That's why one reason why with the increase in the meals tax money, we can pay for it. Number two is, in the last, I'm in my 7th year, I think, in a row here now, or 9th year, I don't know what it is, but going back as far as I can remember, we've consistently given the employees a 1% cost of living increase, no matter what. At the same time, you look at the last 3 years of the Triton contract, I think it was 2, 2.5, and 2 3/4% cost of living increase. And I could be wrong on those figures, but it's about that level, on top of whatever step increases they get on their step chart. So our employees for the last 10 years have been consistently falling further and further behind while the school department keeps up. And I'm not blaming the school department, I understand, but this is an attempt, and I hope people understand this, and the people watching at home understand this, that this is our attempt to bring our employees a little bit more in line from what they've had to go through the last few years. And it isn't perfect, and it doesn't bring them up totally, but at least it's a real strong step And we're not giving license to the school to say, hey, wait a minute, you instead of doing 2.5%, give 3 or 3.5. I mean,
Right.
we're still going to be frugal, as Bob says, and when we, next year's budget with the new pay scales build in some. We're not going to give COLAs over and above what the pay scale says. It's kind of all built in to come up with those new pay rates. So we're certainly not licensing ourselves. We deal with the budget. We know what the problems are when there's no income or lack of income, and this is the time to do it. We got the new tax money coming in. It's not going to hurt the taxpayers in that sense. And who knows where the economy is going to go the next couple of years? It could keep on booming, or it might come apart. So we have to take each year as it comes. But I think this is our attempt to kind of help to level our things out, not comparing anything to the schools or anything. They do their thing, and it's a different issue altogether. But our employees always look at the school department and say, "Well, how come they get all this and we get 1%?" So it's a comparison whether we like to have it made or not. So.
It would be nice if we were all under one umbrella, but we're not. We are a regional school.
Okay.
So from my perspective, the board asked for flexibility to kind of negotiate with potential candidates. I think we've made a big step in that direction. I think there's still some open issues on the benefit side, which I understand that the Board of Selectmen is still considering. That's also important, but particularly for these senior positions where people are coming with expectations. And the new pay schedule gives us a chance to trade some things off, where before we didn't have any room to trade off anything. We're behind the 8 ball across the board. Now we have a bit more wiggle room, but I think we still have to kind of make an effort to kind of bring that in line as well when we're competing for experienced staff who've got expectations, legitimate expectations in terms of benefits. But I'm very pleased with the way this thing moved forward, and I can see the fiscal sanity of it as well.
Thank you. Great.
Well, where Dave's the chairman, do you have a comment, or?
No.
Where Dave's the chairman, I'd like to make the motion to approve of the revised personnel plan and proposed fiscal 20 compensation schedule.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion to approve the plan and the proposed compensation.
Just one question. Is
Yes.
that sufficient, Debbie, to do what we want?
We're looking for, the Board of Selectmen has to approve the new personnel plan, and they have to approve the FY20 proposed.
You want that in two separate motions, or?
If, however, the board wishes to go on that.
Might be better, Joe, if we'll do separate motions. That way it's very clear that.
Okay, so you
you don't
want
mind,
to separate on the
No,
personnel plan and separate on the compensation schedule?
Yeah, that would.
Yeah,
that'd be
I think
good.
that would
Okay.
clear it up.
I'll make, withdraw my motion and make a motion to approve the personnel plan.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the personnel plan has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll now move that we approve the proposed fiscal year 20 compensation schedule.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the proposed compensation schedule has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay.
Just to follow up again, I can't thank Debbie and Amy enough for the amount of work. And it's been a 2 to 3 year, maybe even longer, project, and they've really made an effort to bring the Personnel Advisory Committee way beyond what it has been. We meet on a regular basis, and it's just.
Didn't this start 4 years ago?
Mr. Chairman, I do want to thank Amy. She's really the editor of this book. She spent an unbelievable amount of time.
I think we ought to give them a little round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, we can't give you a pay raise.
Debbie, I thought we,
It's been about 3 years, so
didn't we go back a little bit further than that?
We've adopted some policies
The
along the
okay.
way that had to be adopted, but to integrate the entire document, upgrade it with the appendices has taken a lot of time in between other things, so Amy has done a terrific job, and she's a great editor. and it's hopefully a clearer document and as long as it.
I was thinking about the wage table and everything else and going through it.
Well, there's other pieces
Yeah,
that,
pieces of it.
you know, not just the writing piece that we've got to do.
Okay, next up on the agenda is the FY '20 budget guidelines. As a result of the non-union compensation schedule we just approved and the union agreements, wages will be set by those things. In terms of expenses, Debbie is recommending that expense budgets be level funded. However, departments needing operational increases must clearly identify the reason why the increase is needed. Such a request must be submitted on the issues and options form. Any discussion?
I think we have to recommend that the expense budgets be level funded.
I agree. Can you make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion to set a guideline that expense budgets be level funded has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. I voted yes. Do you need any further votes on that, Debbie, or is that sufficient?
No, I think that's the
good.
template
Thank you very much.
that we'll go forward with.
Oh, Bernie?
Yeah, just to, I'm not a great fan of the term level funded. And
You want increases?
Sorry?
You want increases?
No, I don't. I think the key issue here is to make sure that and I'm sure the Finance Committee will do this, to make sure that each line item in the budget is fully and rigorously examined to make sure that we aren't simply just leaving, putting money in the budget that's not really needed. So all I can do is give an example from the Water Department, where we've been pushing very hard to kind of pull apart the budget both last year and this year in order to make sure that each line item is fully justified. And even after going through the process last year, we've discovered that there were items that still could be reduced, not level funded, but actually reassessed and re-leveled, basically, but rigorously. I mean, going through, breaking it apart, and then legitimizing what those budget requirements actually are going to be. And again, I would say I've been helping to push that, but it's only with the help and the due diligence of the people in the Water Department that we can do it. Because as most of you know, as board members, you really know diddly squat. You're just a pleasant-looking face on most of these requests. The real knowledge comes from the people who are close, whose noses are close to the grindstone, and they just need support, I found, to kind of reassess and rethink through those budgets. So level funded is a good starting point. A litmus test. If it goes up, then that needs to be justified. But hopefully, the Finance Committee will be pushing to make sure that any item that's of any consequence is kind of re-looked at, no matter how socially desirable it is. So, for example, our training budget and the Water Department has gone from 20,000 down to 6,000. We're still training, but the 20,000 was simply, who's going to question the training budget? Well, we have, employees have, and we've re-leveled it. So.
Well, I think, Bernie, the Water Department over the last 10 years has gone through a variety of iterations based on who's running things up there. And I think since the last superintendent left, and the board and your current employees have done an admirable job of going through the budget, like you say. Most of the town departments, the budgets are small. I mean, you got wages and you got expenses, and like I just learned to my chagrin when my wife went to the post office that last month the stamps went up a nickel. And I said, well, son of a gun, if we'd known that, I could have bought the stamps before if it got a bit cheaper, right? But, most of the increases, we tell people to give us a justification. We've been level funding expense budgets going back as far as I can remember, and it was only about 2 or 3 years ago we told people that if you got something in particular we've gone through any discretionary money, and there's very little money left at the end of the year that these departments aren't spending. So, if you need, like the town clerk sends out a lot of items, I'm sure she's going to need an increase in her report, because these departments all send us very detailed descriptions of what they spend the money for. Police department's probably one of the ones that's about a 10-page document of how they spend every nickel and what goes into what. So I think the departments are doing a real good job of keeping the expenses down and justifying everything they spend. And I know Larry's on the finance committee. I go to many meetings and I watch other ones on TV, and they do an incredible job of questioning what people are asking for and what the reasons are. And sometimes it's irritating, I'm sure, for the department heads, but they're doing the right thing, and it's working pretty well all in all. So.
Mr. Chairman, a part of the budget template is a breakout on expenses, so utilities, electricity, all that is shown as, what has been allocated in those lines and what's been used over the current year, the past year, and what you're proposing. So if there's a contract for, that's changing for something, I don't know, whatever it could be, in the library, shampooing the rugs, they have to clean, if that's going up, they're gonna put it in their budget, and they're gonna show the reason why is there's an increase in something. So we do break it down to that level, and so it's pretty much and we don't really have a lot of consolidated expense budgets. For the most part, you'll see the conservation department, their budget, the planning, that budget, and they're pretty, they're not high.
No,
I mean, they're a few $1,000s
pretty
plus.
lean, my
So
experience.
we do break it down even to telephone, electricity, water and buildings and things like that, but, postage, things like
Right.
that. If we get down to that level.
I mean, for the town meeting articles, it'll say wages and expenses, but the documentation submitted to the finance committee and to this board on the expenses is broken down. Each department breaks it down to a great deal of detail, so that it's not just a figure that's pulled out of the sky. It's especially after the lean years we've had. They're pretty well. It's amazing that we get by spending what we do, and even maintenance on buildings and stuff. We're hoping this year to be able to do a few more projects, because a lot of these things are, with tight budgets, you cut back on things that you really shouldn't be cutting back on, but you have to just to get the budget through. So we'll be diligent, you can be sure.
Yep.
Okay, so the next agenda item is the FY20 Triton budget update. Last Wednesday, I attended the school committee meeting. Bernie and Larry were also there. The bottom line is that the numbers did not change. At that meeting, there was a lot of discussion about whether to add 2 social workers and also provide for late buses.
Right.
It was pretty evident that everyone in the committee wanted to add those things, but in the end, they voted to hold the line, so there's no changes
They
in the
kept
number.
it within the figures that they submitted?
Yes, so we're still talking about a 1.7 increase in net operating, 1.7 million increase in net general operating costs, and the assessments to the 3 towns have not changed. So our assessment is the same, so we'll see what happens in the future. Bernie?
Yeah, there's a vote on Wednesday,
Yes.
You got this Wednesday?
Wednesday.
I couldn't remember that, yeah.
this Wednesday, for the tentative budget, which essentially, my understanding is that no changes up.
Right, that's the high water mark.
So if they vote on Wednesday, then we know what our
The worst case would be.
the worst case vote is.
How does that equate to our 2.5 for new growth?
It's
the
above
figure.
it, but it's
above.
it's above, but
It's
we should be
a,
able to handle it.
it's a 4.14% increase, so.
2.5 in new growth is usually
For
about
us.
3%, give or take.
The letter that we sent had a $200,000 as our part of the Prop 2.5, plus 90,000 for new growth. So that each one was half of the new growth that they were showing, and so that's what we offered to Triton. So it was 290, and so this is only 100 and 120,
Over,
130
over that. So I just, you know.
Yeah,
let
it's
people
very
know-
close.
Let
It's
people
doable.
know at home that,
It'll be doable.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's over,
yep.
you know.
well, hopefully. I hope it is. It looks like it is. Just, I think it's worth noting that Salisbury's assessment was 8.41%. It's almost $1 million.
Yeah.
And Salisbury, the town manager, did appear at that meeting and essentially say that the town couldn't afford it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a tough position.
Next agenda item is Pine Grove School project update. Joe?
I'm, I'm thrilled. I've been amazed at walking through the project. I talked to Joram Whittier and quite a while ago, I was looking at how the cost was rising on what we were proposing for the renovations. And I was saying, you know, gee, that's going to cost a lot of money. But Brad Dorr said that we should think about it in terms of what are we getting for the money that we're spending. And I'll tell you what I've seen so far. We're at just over 60% completion, and they are on target for Phase 3. They completed that on Friday, and that was the upper south wing. And they will be moving the teachers from the lower south wing upstairs into these brand-new rooms for the teachers. And it is an incredible area. It looks great. Some of you have seen the all-purpose room. You'll get to see it on town meeting night, and I think you'll be amazed. I know you walking into the room, you look around, and you'll swear that the room has been enlarged, and it's not a quarter of an inch bigger than what the original footprint, but they did an amazing job. But we are on target. Everything is progressing. We're moving into Phase 4. They will start demolition on the lower south on Tuesday, and everything is progressing very, very well.
Okay, thanks. Next agenda item is Fire Station and Police Station Addition Project Update. Finished work continues in the existing police station and fire station. The epoxy paint will be applied in the cell areas and fire station this week. The handicap door and toilet in the cell area will be installed this week. The plan is to finish the project and obtain the certificate of occupancy at the end of this month. Is that for both buildings, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the insurance, we're insured to that end of the month. So there'll still be things, minor things going on, but they'll meet all the code requirements, and the building inspector and the fire chief will be able to go through and give us a certificate of occupancy. So it's going along quite well. A lot of little things and some furniture issues with damaged furniture, things like that, but we're very pleased with it, and costs are within what we budgeted, and the big thing will be the paving and the landscaping will have to be done come spring.
It's within budget.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
big
yeah.
thing.
Right. All three projects are.
Well, yep.
Okay, announcements. The town has the following vacancies: Agricultural Commission Associate, Cultural Council, Zoning Board of Appeals Associate, 2 seats, and Deputy Shellfish Constables, 2 positions. For more information on these positions, please contact the Selectmen's Office, 948-2372. The following offices are on the May 14th, 2019 annual town election ballot. Board of Selectmen, 2 seats for 3-year terms. Constable, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Board of Assessors, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Planning Board, 1 seat for a 5-year term. Municipal Light Board, one 1-year unexpired term. Municipal Light Board, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Municipal Water Board, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Cemetery Commission, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Shellfish Commission, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Trustees of the Public Library, 1 seat for 1-year unexpired term, and also for the Public Library, 1 seat for a 2-year unexpired term. And third, for the Trustees of Public Library, 3 seats for a 3-year term. Triton Regional School Committee, Newbury member, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Rowley member, 1 seat for a 3-year term, and Salisbury member, 1 seat for a 3-year term. And also, finally, the Housing Authority, one seat for a what term?
5-year.
5-year term. For information on the election and for deadlines to take out and submit nomination papers, please contact the town clerk's office at 948-2081. The Rowley Food Pantry is in need of donations. Donations can be left at the Rowley Public Library. The food pantry is open on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and on Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Give me a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.